everybody, how's it going? I actually got a decent response from that first video, so I'm really excited to do this again. This time I'm actually in the middle of making dog treats. So this is the glob that I'm working with right now, and I'm just gonna make dog treats while I talk to you guys. Last time I told you guys that my next video was going to talk about the day of Steven's accident, the week after, the month after, things like that. So I guess I'll just start on that day. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Taylor Blackwell. I am by no means a professional or a counselor or a therapist or any of those things, but I have a lot of experience in grief and everything surrounding grief, from loss of a parent to loss of a dog to loss of a grandparent to an estranged family member to my husband. So here we go. So June 22nd, 2018 started off as any other day. It was a Friday. I was watching the babies as usual. Steven slept in late. When he woke up, we went to McDonald's for lunch because he had to rush and go to work that was close to our house. So that's what we did. We had McDonald's for lunch. That was our very last meal together, and it's sad, yes, but it is what it is. We got home, he got ready for work. Every day before he left, we would hug and kiss each other. I love you too. And so that's what we did. And since he got the motorcycle, I would watch him until I could no longer see him down that street anymore. The baby that I was watching got picked up around 4 o'clock, a little bit before then. And Steven normally got to work around 4 p.m. That's when he knew to text me to let me know that he had made it to work and that he was okay. And right before I got in the shower, I texted him, "You okay?" And so then I got in the shower, and for some reason, I've told some people this, and I've never been able to explain why. But for some reason, when I was in the shower this day, I had this thought go through my head that said, what if I'm washing my hair to go to the hospital because Steven got in an accident? I don't know why. I don't know where this came from. To this day, I cannot explain it. So when I got out of the shower, I texted him, "Babe." And there was no response. So I decided to go get my eyebrows waxed, because if I just sat there and thought about it, I was going to stew and freak out, and I didn't want to be that person that freaks out before it's too soon and call 911 just because my husband's not texting me back, you know? So I went and I got my eyebrows waxed, and I pulled a Meredith Grey and told myself that if I don't hear by Steven by 7 p.m., then I can freak out. 7 p.m. is 3 hours past the time that he should have been at work, and there was just no reason that he could have been more than 3 hours late for work for a 1.5 hour commute. So I got my eyebrows waxed, and then when I came home, I got a phone call from Steven's mom, and she and I just had a good old conversation about where Steven and I are going to move next. We were talking about moving to New Orleans so that he wouldn't have to commute. But in the meantime, we were talking about staying with his parents in between leases, because it was really tough for us to find a place that would allow 3 huskies, as some of you may know. We talked for a good little while, and we hung up at 5 o'clock because she then had to go into work. So then I texted Steven, "Please just tell me you're alive." And there was no response. So then I texted my sister-in-law, Kaylee. Kaylee works with state officials. Some of this may be a little bit hazy. I don't quite remember the timeline of this part, but I knew Kaylee would understand what to do. So together, she and I looked up traffic reports, accident reports, things like that, and she talked me down, and then her phone died. She was at the store. So then I kind of started to panic. because at that point I found that there was an accident, but there was no details. So at that point, I texted Steven, Jesus, please say something. And then not much later than that, it was 7 p.m. So at 7 p.m., I decided to call the non-emergency 911 number. The operator answered, and I completely broke down on the phone. I told her, my husband's late for work. I know there's been an accident. How do I find out if he's been involved in that accident? And she said, okay. And she calmed me down. She said, don't worry. Let's not freak out until we know something's wrong. I'm going to send you to the Kenner Police Department. So that's what she did. She sent me to the Kenner Police Department. The gentleman who answered the phone had no information on any accidents, and he said he would have somebody call me back. I waited, and I can't tell you if it was 20 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour of waiting, but I waited. It was agony. And then I got a phone call from the detective, and he said, this is Detective so-and-so. How can I help you? And I said, yes, sir. My name is Taylor Blackwell. I'm calling to look for my husband because he is several hours late for work. I know there's been an accident, and I just want to figure out if he's been involved in this accident. And the detective said, okay, well, can you describe your husband for me? And so I did. 5'10", brown eyes, brown hair, brown facial hair. And then he asked me, can you describe his motorcycle and the motorcycle helmet? And I said, yes, sir. The motorcycle was a white Harley. He had a white helmet with a detachable mandible. And I told him about the tattoo of Destiny Hunter symbol on the back of his arm, the Mario mushroom on his bicep, and Our Lady of Guadalupe on his back scapula. And then the detective asked me, can you describe what he was wearing? And I said, yes, sir. He was wearing a long sleeve green shirt, jeans, a backpack, and colorful shoes. The shoes were the same shoes that he wore to my wedding. And no other shoe. I've never seen any other shoes like these. And the detective said, are they cartoonish shoes? My heart dropped. I knew it was him at that point in time. I just knew. When you know, you know. When you are so connected to somebody, you can feel it. You know when they're gone. The detective said, well, ma'am, I'm sorry, but I think I have your husband right here. And I said, is he alive? And the detective said, I'm so sorry to tell you this over the phone, ma'am, but no, he's not. I really have no words for those feelings. I mean, I remember where I was standing in my backyard. I remember repeating over and over, can I call his mom? Can I call his mom? I just remember feeling cold in the middle of summertime, like the blood just drained from my body. So the detective said, okay, hold on, ma'am. Just give me your address. We're going to send an officer to your house. And so I waited. I put our huskies in their kennels. Immediately after hanging up with the detective, I texted Kaylee, Steven's dead. And she called me right after, and she basically just kept me calm. She said, let's not freak out yet. I'm going to pick up Tim. We're coming to your house. Just breathe, stay calm. So I tried. There was a point in time where in between phone calls, I just screamed and sobbed, and I dropped to the floor, and I asked Steven why he left me, and I asked God why he did this, and I prayed that Steven would miraculously come back to life. That's all I prayed for constantly, over and over again, was just that he could just come back, that some miracle would bring him back. When Tim and Kaylee showed up, I was curled up on the corner of my couch, and Kylo, our male dog, was curled up next to me. He knew immediately something was wrong. He did not leave my side. Leia was just a few months old, and Coda was exhausted from just mothering a whole litter of puppies. An officer did end up showing up, and we were looking up Facebook articles, news articles, anything we could find that would tell us, that would let us know that it was Steven, or that maybe there was some mistake. And then Tim came across the first news article of Steven's helmet on the pavement, and at that point we decided not to wait on an officer anymore, and we went straight to Steven's parents' house in Zachary. And by the time we got there, they were at my house because they had kind of figured out the news on their own. They came back to their house, and I just remember so vividly when they all walked through their door, and we all just immediately crumbled into each other for hours, and more friends showed up and more families showed up, and all the Blackwell siblings that were in Louisiana were there, and cousins were there, and I mean, there were so many people in such a short amount of time. I just remember my mother-in-law Susan and I talking about how we didn't want to go to sleep because we didn't want to wake up and remember it the next day. That was just the worst. And that night we went and got my dogs, and I stayed with Sam and Nate and Landon, who were friends of ours. Steven and I saw these people every single night for months before Steven's passing. We were very, very close. We basically were our own little family. So that's who I stayed with, and they took me and my dogs in. They let me nanny kids while I was living there. It was, I mean, like, they took care of me. The days leading up to the funeral, I didn't eat. People begged me to eat. I could not. I struggled taking a shower. It was very hard to stand up for long periods of time. I didn't want to sleep, so I didn't sleep as much as I could. There was a very long time where I was up 20 hours a day. The day of the wake and the funeral, I didn't put on any makeup. I didn't fix my hair. I chose the outfit for both Steven and I that we wore on the night of our rehearsal dinner because they were green, and green was Steven's favorite color. To be honest, I don't know how many people were at his funeral. I know that there were too many to count, probably. I mean, there were people there that I didn't know. There were people there that walked out of my life and showed up again just to show up to the funeral. And there were people who were my family and his his friends from high school and co-workers of mine and the families of the babies that I watched. I mean, everyone you could possibly imagine. The deacon who married us was there. I mean, it was, but I didn't notice any of them because I spent those entire last hours remembering every last detail of Steven's face and touching his cold hands and rubbing his facial hair for the last time, and everyone said that he looked so peaceful, and I didn't see it, you know. But what was funny was that the funeral director or whoever it was that does this stuff, put makeup on Steven's face, and I know that that's what they're supposed to do. I know that that's their job, but Steven's cousins and brothers and I joked about the fact that Steven would have been so upset if they put makeup over his battle scars, because he would have been so proud of those battle scars. But anyway, I remember at some point that day, some lady that I don't even know, she came up to me and she said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I know so-and-so, and I'm just so sorry for your loss. So what are you gonna do now?" And I just looked at her like, I mean, come on, lady. Like, I just buried my husband after 7 weeks of marriage. I don't know what I'm about to do. 19 months in, I still don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know if I'll ever know what I'm doing. I don't know if you've ever been to somebody's house when they've lost a loved one, but the first 2 or so weeks, there is so much food. I mean, there's lasagna, and there's pizza, and there's salad, and there's all this fried stuff, and there's desserts, and there's cake, and there's alcohol. I mean, there's everything you can imagine. But what people don't know, that's actually the time that nobody wants to eat. But when the appetite comes around during the second month, there is no more food. It sucks. You're right back to going to the grocery store by yourself and cooking sad little meals for one again. So about 2 or 3 weeks into it, I finally started eating again. And at that point, I was just so devastated and ready to go be with Steven that I literally tried killing myself with food. As in, I would eat nothing but fast food and drink soda, and that was it, and eat as much dessert as I wanted just because I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to have a heart attack and die. I don't do that anymore. And I don't recommend it either. But sometimes you just do what you gotta do to make it to the next day or the next hour or the next minute. You know, don't let anybody judge you, because nobody is pretty when they're grieving. Nobody grieves perfectly. Nobody has perfect coping mechanisms. And nobody who does have perfect coping mechanisms has always had that, has always been that way. So if you feel like you need to go out and eat 2 double cheeseburgers and a large fry, you go ahead and you do that. If you feel like you need to go to the gym and work out for 4 hours straight, you can do that too. Neither one of them is wrong, and nobody has a right to judge you for it. So, after the funeral, I was stuck with a rental house, 3 dogs, one of which was only a few months old, 1 income where we were already paycheck to paycheck on our 2 paycheck income, no life insurance. To this day, I have gotten $0 from the auto insurance or any kind of insurance money resulting from anything that happened from the accident. I don't know how much auto insurance I'm going to be getting actually at this point. We had no life insurance because we didn't really think about it, being 24 and 27 years old and being married for 7 weeks. Ironically, a few days before the accident, I joked with Steven that I should have made him get life insurance before letting him ride the stupid motorcycle, but I didn't. And then the accident happened, and now I have nothing. I went to work 2 weeks after the accident happened, which is insane to think about. In the timeline of grief, that is nothing. You are still in complete shock within 2 weeks. So go get that life insurance, people. It ain't that expensive. Thankfully, Steven's family was on top of a lot of things because I was completely out of it, and they took care of most of the things that needed to be taken care of during that time. I will forever be indebted to those people. But yeah. And then about 3 months after Steven's accident or so, I packed up my car and took my dogs and we went to Colorado. And then we were in Colorado for about 5 or 6 months. And then I got an offer to move to New Jersey completely rent-free. And that's where I've been ever since for about a year now. It's taken me a little while to adjust to the weather changes, but Now that I've experienced 4 full seasons, I'm never living in the South again. I'm not going to lie, it's been an absolute struggle trying to do things without Steven. Even with help, financially things are hard as all get out. But even taking that apart and putting that aside, if I just want to go spend a day in Manhattan just to have fun, it's almost always clouded by thoughts of Steven should be here for this. We should have lived here together. He should have been here. We should have experienced this together. So it's really hard. But I've made friends here. Long Branch is absolutely gorgeous. I've had some friends and family come up and visit me. I have gone to visit friends and family in Louisiana as well as Brooklyn. I have in-laws in Brooklyn actually, which is really convenient, as well as in DC, which is only a few hours away. The beach is absolutely beautiful. Currently, I am basically unemployed, but I'm trying to build up my photography business. I've also been approached to sell dog treats, so that's what I'm working on right now, as well as some for my own babies, of course. I'm just kind of doing gig jobs right now and doing what I can to get by. So yeah, that's basically the gist of how things went down and how I found out. I essentially went looking for Steven and I found him. I do believe deep down that Steven and I were so connected that is why I felt those feelings in the shower at the time that he was in that accident. My heart and my soul knew that he was gone before my mind did. And I don't ever want to settle for anything less than that now that I've had it. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life, although the most tragic. I hope I gave you enough insight to what it's like to experience that kind of loss firsthand and what those first few days or weeks or months are like, just so that maybe you can understand what your friend or your family is going through right now. And if you are the friend or family that's going through something right now, you're not alone. Just understand that there are so many of us that have different coping mechanisms and really, really hurt, and just know you're not alone. And you never will be. So thank you guys. If you have any other questions about what I talked about in this video, please feel free to ask in the comments or a private message or however you feel is comfortable. Let me know. I'm really curious. This is a lot of fun and I really enjoy connecting with you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish these dog treats. Y'all have a great rest of the week. I'll see y'all soon.